In any situation, trying to jump to your next role is always fairly stressful. If you're new to UX, it's also probably going to be an experience. And every company is trying to hire senior designers, and you're trying to kind of ease yourself in as a junior designer, which isn't always easy. And a lot of times, companies just aren't hiring junior designers. Today, we're talking about getting in your first UX interview, and a big part of that is going to be about networking. We're going to be talking about ways that you can network to kind of get your foot in the door. So you don't need to know really higher up people. You don't even really need to know any designers at any of the companies. The goal here is just to get a foot in the door. You want to focus on being relational, because networking is really just getting you connected with someone on a personal level. When you think about networking, usually you're thinking about like professional network and all that. I would say reach out to your friends and network first, but be intentional and be specific. You don't want to do like a wide blast, like you just do like a big friends group saying, hey, I need a job. This is what I'm looking for. Is anyone looking for UX design position? I think that will just kind of fall on empty ears, because you're putting work onto your friends and family in your job search as you're looking for these roles. If like you're using LinkedIn or Indeed or anything like that, find the companies that are already hiring, find the roles that you're already looking for, and then you start doing kind of the backwards research. What you're trying to do is just have some sort of personal connection, of which will get you connected to their recruiting or the HR teams and all that. It's really your goal. It's in both of your benefits, because obviously you'll be able to get a role, your foot in the door, get the interview process started. It's in the employee's benefit, because in most cases, in most companies that I've worked at, there's usually always some sort of referral bonus. And this bonus could be a couple $100, could be a couple $1,000 worth. You can even get referred by people that don't even know you personally. I don't know how the recruiting team breaks that and decides whether or not to elevate that role. But depending on the company, I could go by the recruiter's desk and be like, hey, my friend's looking for work. And then I put their information, or email them the information. And then quickly after, they're already starting that conversation. And it goes really fast. Working with your friends can be really fun. I've been able to work with some of my friends, and it becomes super energizing. I've also had it cripple some friendships. And that is also very painful, because you also realize you might be difficult to work with. And that's what I found about myself. And then, it's a growing process. I recommend you reach out to recruiters at the company. And what you do is that you apply for the role, and then you send a very succinct, short and sweet message to the recruiter. The one thing you want to make sure you do is you want to be prepared. You want to be prepared with your portfolio and your resume. Again, you can include links to those. If you have a password in your portfolio, make sure that's all included in there, so there's no, a barrier. Hey, I'm interested in this role. I just applied. Here's a link to my portfolio, my resume. Would love to hear more. And then just end it. If it's too long, you're going to be trying to, again, giving them too much work to try to read into your message. And then if you're asking questions during that message, they have to think about it. And just like any other, at least for me in emails, if there is a long email with a lot of questions, it's a burden. And so you're having to that you have to commit time to it. So again, you're trying to put as the least amount of work on the people that are going to be working with you to get that next role. You want to work with the recruiters at the company. I wouldn't say the same for recruiters at a headhunting company. At least for the one company I worked at where I was on the hiring side, I remember the conversations where they were saying well, this is a great candidate, but because we got them from this recruiting agency, we have to tack on $20,000 more to bring this person on. And that became a decision point. A company will pay the right money for the right candidate, but anything that I think gets in the way of that decision making is just a barrier. If let's say the recruiter is unresponsive for any reason, I have heard from other colleagues that some of them like to message designers directly. And I think that works to some degree, but I would say with the caveat that not all designers are going to be living on LinkedIn. I find this a little uncomfortable for me. I like to have that personal connection before I would ask for that referral. But from others that I've heard, they have found success with that. I can't personally recommend this one, as I feel like I haven't done it myself. But as someone who would receive these messages, I would say I appreciate them. So maybe I do recommend it. I don't know. I have had some people coming out of boot camps and say that they're interested in kind of just chatting about Amazon or wherever, and then they'll just kind of like disappear. And so that's kind of weird. If your first impression with the designer is, hey, I'm really interested in your role, I would really like to hear more. It's like, sure, when would you like to meet up? And then they never reply back. It's like, okay, well that's your first impression. And that kind of actually goes to my next topic. If you try to reach out friends and family, your recruiters, designers, and you're just like, whatever role company you're looking for, and you're just exhausting them all, and you feel like you haven't got any bites at all, just consider the long game, because impressions are what they are, right? Like you're going to have a first impression with the company or with any of these people, whether or not it's, that LinkedIn message, or maybe you get the first call, but your first impression is going to be longer lasting than you think. And the reason I say this is, I remember when I got my first UX role, I had an interaction at a UX conference with my boss 1 year prior to me getting hired by my boss. And I don't even remember what our first interaction was, but I do remember him saying that I made a good first impression. And, a year later, he's doing random UX designer interviews at my college, and he ends up hiring me on the spot. Now, that's a rare occurrence, and I don't expect it to happen for everyone, but I will say that just thinking that like I made the effort of being somewhere a year prior just to be interacting with people, I think that goes a long way. So hopefully you don't have to play the long game, but just remember, you don't have to do it alone. I find a lot of times where I'm trying to help my friends get into UX design, and a lot of times there is some inherent need that feels like you have to accomplish it yourself, or you have to, muster all this motivation and be able to shine on your own. And I think there's a time and place for that in regards to your interviews. Like, people can't walk you through the interviews or just get you a job instantly. But I will say, you don't have to do it alone. Like, think of your friends and network. All these people, like the recruiters and other designers, like, we've all been there. The recruiter's role is to fill roles, and other designers, I think, have general interest in helping others. And so, like myself and other designers that I've talked to, just remember, we're people at the end of the day, and just because we work at whatever company, just reach out, see what kind of conversation you can spin up with people, because again, it's in people's benefit to just refer people that they think are strong. Just don't feel like you have to do it yourself. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from this, and that's where I think networking plays a big part in this.